16 years old, Mr. Dave Yoho found himself serving a U.S. merchant marine. 16. He was on board a T-2 tanker supporting combat ships in the South Pacific. He returned to the United States, graduating from Temple University, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree in business, and then he pursued graduate studies in clinical psychology at Rutgers in New Jersey, and he founded his own business before he even turned 28. He's currently president of a consulting group, and he represents national and international clients, many Fortune 500 companies, and he sits on the board of public companies as well. He's appeared in over 100 video training series. He's made over 5,000 speeches in all 50 states and 17 foreign countries. Please welcome World War II veteran, Mr. Dave Yoho.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I was 15 when I enrolled. I don't think it's smart, wise, but at the time, appropriate. And now I also welcome you to this World War II memorial. And thank you for joining us this day. And Jim Bunning, I am in awe of you. That man is 103 years old. I am reminded, Jim, of a friend of mine who did write a book about it. It was called Growing Old Ain't for Sissies. And you personify that. And a special thank you to those who helped this most memorable day come true. I'm talking about the U.S. Park Service, and I'm talking about the Friends of the World War II Memorial. Now let's get to it. Most importantly, we gather to pay homage to and respect for the veterans of World War II, who you see assembled here, my brothers. Some are here with us today. Many more lie at eternal rest in a foreign soil or at the bottom of the sea in a watery grave. Others live too distant to be here, and there are those whose health does not permit them to travel. They are all in our prayers. When World War II started, we were a nation of 130 million people versus the 325 million we have today. From that population of 130 million, we put 16 million people, 12.5% of our population, in uniform. They fought, served, and died in 5 continents, in hundreds of major battles. And you see that wall of stars, over 440,000 of them gave their lives in military service, but they came home wounded, those who survived, both physically and emotionally. Several years ago, an author by the name of Tim Madigan revealed in an op-ed column for the Washington Post that more than 1 million veterans were discharged with psychoneurotic disorders. Sadly, this discharge was called a Section 8. In that era, it was a stigma to be a Section 8, and a barrier often to many areas of employment or normal post-war social life. In 1946, the director-producer John Huston filmed a documentary entitled Let There Be Light. The research for that film revealed that perhaps 25% or more of those who served in or near combat returned to civilian life suffering from psychic wounds that left them with night terrors, depression, survivor's guilt, and similar. That documentary was never released during that period of time. You can get it today, Google it. It's called Let There Be Light, search date 1946. Now, records indicate that we suffered the highest level of alcoholism that has ever existed in our country in post-World War II. Many took their own lives, and we mourn for them forever. Many researchers, including prominent clinical psychologists, many of whom I know, theorized this history and information was buried, forgotten, amid issues considered more important by the lawmakers of our country and the media. As you visit these various sites today, they're marked in the great battles of this war. Take your Google with you, young people. You know how to do it. I don't. My grandchildren help me, but you know how to do it. And when you see D-Day, I want you to Google it. 9,000 of us died one day. The invasion of Iwo Jima, a little spit of sand in the Pacific Ocean, 6,800 died. And make no bones about it, when you see the guys in brown here, the ground troops, the grunts, took the biggest hit. The final major Pacific invasion, Okinawa, 14,000 of us died. The Battle of the Bulge, when we had completely defeated the German army, the Nazis. We had been defeated. We had bombed their cities to the ground, and they opened an offensive when the war was over. And that offensive was called the Battle of the Bulge. Google it. 19,200 of us died in the movie Saving Private Ryan. I urge you to see it if you haven't. The film, first 15 minutes, portrays what it was like in the first wave of our veterans on D-Day. Now, you may find it difficult to watch. My lovely wife cannot watch that part of the movie. However, it portrays what many veterans experienced in their wartime life, and may explain to you, if you have a relative that's a veteran of World War II, why they don't want to talk about it. The same is true of the Korean veteran and the Vietnam veteran. They don't want to talk about it. Recall is painful. But in that movie, it starts with an old man kneeling at a gravesite in Normandy, France. And he weeps as he asks this question that many of us ask: did I lead a worthy life? Did I lead a worthy life? Did what I do count? And despite reassurance from those who love us, the question remains: did we lead a worthy life? The war ended 72 years ago. Passé, it's history. Today, there are approximately 500,000 of us still alive. We are passing, we are leaving this earthly coil at the rate of 490 every day. In addition, veterans from all walks of life, veterans from other wars, take their lives at the rate of 22 each week. And as Jim pointed out, almost 40,000 of these veterans are homeless. Which begs the question, was what we did and how we performed our task not worthy of the very best attention from our government in our declining years? And why isn't the history, purpose, and the outcome of this war taught at a college level or even at a high school level? And why? They called us part of the greatest generation, but we're failing with the future generation, as Jim points out. War is not fun. I was not prepared to be an adult. I became an adult because when I got there was no other choice. Now, you examine today the status of our Veterans Administration. I love my country to the bone. I stand in defense of my country to this day. I can't understand why they have a hotline that isn't answered immediately. It is intentionally for those veterans who are under such dynamic neurologic pressure that they can't figure out how to do 15 minutes, and their hold on the phone is longer than that, or their wait may be 2 weeks. What do you know about the U.S. Seabees, a division of the American Navy that gets little attention? What do you know about the U.S. Armed Guard, the Navy Armed Guard that served on all the merchant ships? And we lost 830 merchant ships in World War II, 300 of them right off the coast, the East Coast here. And what of the WASPs? Do you know about the WASPs? Look it up, Google it. These were the women who ferried the planes. When they were finished, they ferried the planes from point A, the factory, to maybe San Francisco or Fort Ord or down to Florida someplace. 1,000 of these women recruited. 39 of them died performing their task, and they were later called civilians without the right to the benefits. Each played a major role in this country, yet little is known. If it wasn't for the Park Service, if you look at these bas-reliefs, these bold bronze bas-reliefs, they portray the women and the women's contribution to what we did. I have volunteered on many occasions. Listen to the quality of my voice. I'm no stranger to speaking. I've spoken all over the world, and I have volunteered to contribute this information to universities, schools, to institutions, and I have had little, if any, response. Now, let me tell you my personal story. What do you really know about the U.S. Maritime Service? And I've heard all the guffaws and the reasons that they weren't treated as armed services. They're recognized today. 250,000 of us were recruited, trained in military bases, placed as crew members on merchant ships. Less than 2,500 of us exist today. The highest percentage of casualties, I'll repeat it, the U.S. Merchant Marine experienced the highest level of casualties in World War II history. 1 out of every 26 men died. And through an oversight, they were left out of the GI Bill. There were no post-war benefits. Oh, but our wisdom of our lawmakers, they gave that right to us in 1988. I myself was probably 60 years of age, and I needed them like I needed a ward on you-know-where. 43 years after this war ended, most of us in our 60s, some in our 70s, much too late to benefit from government support for college education. I love my country. I asked them to wake up. A recent news release for the U.S. Merchant Marines veterans was sent to every congressman and representative in the United States, the head of Veterans Affairs, the president, and others in powers who make our laws and will determine how we will lead our lives. And I ask you to Google also then House Bill 154, introduced and supported by Congressman Green from Texas, that speaks about our denial. We don't need money. We need the attention to people to understand what we did. In that release, I am quoted this question I ask all lawmakers. Do you, can you, will you ever comprehend? We gave up our youth. We gave up our youth. For many of us, for most of us, there were no high school graduations. Look at us. There were no dances. There were no proms. There were no sporting events. There were no meetings at the malt shop as you might do today. These are things we consciously and unconsciously agreed to abandon when we took an oath and we did what we were asked to do. We left as boys. We became men rapidly, and we came home as men. Many veterans who served in combat zones still have some uncomfortability. Meet them today, touch their hands, touch the flesh of the people, and you'll find they're often reluctant to talk about what happened to them. We returned to a social culture that we did not fully understand. Many of us returned, myself included, still young enough that I couldn't go into a restaurant and buy a drink. I couldn't even vote. And yet, for almost 13 years, months, I was on a ship in the South Pacific. This is not about me, however. This is about us. All of us experienced some disappointment there. This is a beautiful tribute to our life. Not only the memorial for those who have passed, a tribute to our life. It's our last vestige of hope. What did we do that was different? Well, life is a series of new beginnings at all times. So most of us made a choice. Whether to wallow and seek sympathy for what we do not have or what we weren't given, or to suck it up and embrace who we were, who we are, and what we helped accomplish. We came home to unemployment, the need for education, and a method to fit in and catch up with social groups of our own age. We constantly reasserted our loyalty. Did you see us when the flag passed? Our presence today proves that we love this country, and what we did was our choice. We stand as able when our flag passes and our martial music is played. And we proudly salute that Star-Spangled Banner when we hear our national anthem. Do not expect us to understand or have compassion for the athlete who will not stand for our national anthem, or the malcontents who burn our flag. There is no compassion in our heart, and you look at our faces worn by age and heightened by the color of our hair and say, don't ever do this in our presence, because you devalue the very things to which our comrades, for which we gave our lives and our future. Now, as I wrap up, I want to confide in you. We, like all of you, were once younger. Like you, we had our dreams, our fantasies about what life had in store for us. Now, the war was an interruption, which required a change in our priorities. The majority of us, however, asked them would not change what we did and what we did to accept the consequences of what happened post-war, including all of those things of an emotional nature that you may find in us as you speak to us. Finally, when you see us, I ask you to envision that young child somewhere in your family. They might be 17, 18, 19 years of age. Then envision that young person leaving home alone for the first time with a small suitcase. And after some tearful hugs, handshakes, weeping, and departure, watch that child as they leave and know that they will never return to you as they were. And that is the solace for those who mourn our brotherhood. It is the solace. Observe the child, and you will observe the man. You see, our training took us into a different world, all of us into a military world. The world of obedience, control of emotion, response to authority, and dedication to our country. And most of all, reverence to our standards, reverence to our flag, and reverence to the oath we took when we did what we did to favor our country's request. We ask you today to enlarge what you know, your understanding of the contribution we made. Once again, I suggest you visit these sites. Incidentally, I don't have on my World War II veteran's hat. I have it with me, and my wife will tell you I like to put it on because it messes up my hair. Now, at the conclusion of the laying of the wreaths, and it's a beautiful ceremony, please stay through the whole thing and watch these veterans as we lay the wreaths. I'm going to accompany them, and I'm going to put on my hat to do so. And then I ask you, if you will, many of you, to stay for the prayer vigil. We're going to do a brief prayer vigil. I'm going to introduce some wonderful people there, and we're just simply going to pray for something that happened in our war, and it's called the Murmansk Run. You'll see it in the Sea of Battles. It's the last one over there, the Murmansk Run. You'll see us, and you'll hear us. I will introduce you at that session to a close friend of mine, the war ace of the Vietnam War, General Stephen Ritchie. Would you please stand? And I want you to think this is a purely spiritual thing we're going to do in this little prayer group. Everyone's welcome. We're not going to take away anything from your religious beliefs. But I have the Reverend Eric Song here from the Church of the Good Shepherd in Vienna, Virginia. And it's my hope you will hear his prayers for the passing. Now, the place of honor that you see down here pays tribute to those who sacrificed their lives. And this is just one of the lesser-known tragedies, and I'll just give you a 2-minute synopsis. In a convoy of 35 ships, only 11 survived. It is called the Mermaids Run. It took place under conditions which no human being should ever experience. Temperatures below 40 degrees, ships picked off one by the German assault, and with the rule of war, no ship can pick up a disaster. If you hit the water, you got 3 to 5 minutes and you die in a watery grave from hypothermia. Now think of what we carry in our heads when we think of others. And prayerfully, may futures never, never make this situation reoccur. I thank you so much, Mr. Bunning, for all the things that you do to propagate what we veterans find so important in our lives. And I speak for veterans everywhere when I say, I hope you'll join us. The prayer vigil will be approximately 10, 12 minutes long. Join us despite your faith. Now, one more thing. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I know we didn't disappoint you in our showing up. Average guy sitting back here is 90 or older, this man 103. And I'm just short of that category. I am 89 years of age and proud to say it, and proud to say that I'm a veteran of war too. And I thank every veteran for their service. I thank U.S. servicemen and women everywhere. God bless all of you. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Yoho.